Good morning, everybody. John Spiokla here from GAI Insights, bringing you the Gen AI news briefing. Bring your top news, essential, important, or optional, saving time in your day, putting thoughts in your head. We have a full house today. We have Dr. Amanda Fetch, Tim Andrews, Luda Kopakina, Paul Byer, Ankaj Honda, and yours truly, John Spiokla. Remember, you can find these articles at gaiinsights.com/articles. If you are watching us on YouTube, please do like and subscribe to our channel and look forward to going through these very interesting articles we have today. Ankash, if you could give us the first article, please.
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from BCG and talks about how CMOs are scaling Gen AI in turbulent times.
Yes, here we are with our friends at BCG doing some interesting survey of 200 CMOs and their priorities and how they feel about it and so forth. It continues to have the format that I hate with these kind of floating things, but other than that, content's good. Luda, what'd you think?
I actually rated this article high, important or optional, or important or essential, because it provides real data of where the impact is and where they're going. So I thought that it's only marketing, not the whole enterprise, but still, I thought it was at least important, if not essential. So, Ankash, if you can go to, they talk about positivism and show data in Exhibit 1 where the confidence is actually going from 71% to 79. And as you can see, the rejection going down significantly. I thought the Exhibit 2 was actually quite revealing, where people are focusing on quality of customer experience, personalization, certainly customer insights. And interestingly, the measurement, Ankash, if you can scroll to Exhibit 8 down, um, it's it's lacking, not surprisingly, but they talk about how it absolutely needs to be revived to actually measure the impact of these applications. So I thought that there's something new here, not just confirming the trends, and that's why I think I'm leaning more to essential.
All right, we have important headed for essential. What do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, I think I had it as important. I didn't see that much that was really breakthrough, but it's a decent size survey, and it's as I like to say, it's a great back pocket article because here's 200 presumably reasonably large institutions that are doing some pretty significant stuff, and so the data is reasonable. It's not, to me, it wasn't earth shattering. My one snarky remark would be, I love that the first question is how confident people are. This is a difference between business and science. Everybody's confident. Nobody has any idea why, because everybody else is confident. But I'm joking mostly, but it was funny that I thought that was the first question. But I thought it was, reasonably good and good data. And so I wouldn't argue with essential, but I just didn't see anything really new here. I just thought it was a good thing to have in your portfolio of business case things you need to justify what you're doing.
All right, looks like it's important here. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's said so far. I for this I don't have too much more to add. I was also an important because again I think but like none of these areas to me was something that I like to use the expression fell off my chair when I read to say, wow, marketing's going to use it in this manner. I mean, personalization, content creation. I mean, everything is things that we've been doing for years in the marketing world. So with that, but again, just something to glance over is fine. So I'd say important.
Yeah, I think Kevin raised an interesting question about do um, do humans need to be added for marketing material to make it differentiated? Kevin, I think that yes and no would be what I'd say. First of all, when given the fact that there are lots of local optima in the statistics, when you ask it to take on different roles and so forth, Hunter Thompson arguing with Pope Leo the 14th kind of thing, you know what I mean? That actually averages may not feel like averages on content if you prompt it correctly. So I think that's one thing. The second thing, sure. I mean, I think people can always add some spice to the soup, and the best ones I think will. It still does feel kind of anodyne when you ask it to do creative things many times. Anyway, love the word anodyne. Don't get to use it enough. Okay, Paul, you okay with important?
Yeah, I am, John. And one thing I'm realizing is that we've always had an essential read for the AI, which is really about a key thing we want the AI leader to know and understand and trend. The thing I'm also realizing talking to, and I know you and I talked to a bunch of them yesterday, is there's also key articles that they need to forward. Maybe that's an important one, but I've already forwarded this to 4 CMOs that I know here. So I think this is a good, important article. When you're the AI leader and you need to forward stuff, to get more buy-in and education organization here. So at least important.
All right, Ankash, we're headed for important. What do you think?
John, definitely important for me. I think, as Tim mentioned, it has got a decent survey size, so good insights, but nothing earth-shattering, so not essential for me.
All right, democracy lives. We're going for important. Next.
John, before you start, I did want to say good morning to Vivek and Paula and Sheesh and a bunch of others from our community online. So it's great to see a bunch of familiar voices. And please keep messaging in and share what you think the artist should be rated as well. Go ahead, Ankash.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This is a big 340-pager report about trends on artificial intelligence from Harry Meeker.
Yes, for those of us who love facts, this is a smorgasbord of data with some interesting insights. What do you think here, Tim?
And it's great. I think again, I might rank this essential just because of the comprehensiveness of the data. It's just a great reference piece, and again, doesn't say anything that we haven't been talking about probably for a year, but documents it well with good data behind it. So really interesting. Make some claims here that we could argue about here and there, but the basic data and graphics I put together in the first couple of sections is good. And as I said, I did not read the other 300 plus pages. But also, to a certain extent, it's just, okay, this is the blindingly obvious for those of us who've been paying attention. They just did a nice job of putting it together in one place and putting some data behind it and some context around it.
All right. We have
So I'd say important as a rating.
Important. I thought you were heading for essential. No, okay.
Well, I could, yeah, I could say essential for the first, read through the graphs. Maybe it's hard to parse this one because it's a 320-page document, but I'd say the first, whatever it is, 30 pages of graphs, and then maybe the overview, I could see as essential. Yeah, doesn't take long.
Right. Paul, where are you on this one?
I'm absolutely essential. The AI leader needs to know this. It's unbelievable amount. I put it in a Claude and told it to take out the top 10 insights. I thought one insight I thought was particularly interesting was talking about how last year they calculated that OpenAI did 365 billion search queries essentially, and it took 17 months to get there. It took Google 11
years. Right. Yeah, there's lots of factors like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got an important essential. What do you think, Luda?
I'm just wondering, why do we want the leader to know it? Because some of those tidbits are really interesting, but wouldn't impact the day-to-day operations and even the strategy. It's sort of the background or the underpinnings of what's happening in the industry. So it's not an essential reading, maybe, but for me, it's important. It should.
I think those sometimes are good for people who are arguing against it. This is a fad. This is a hype
Oh.
cycle, not nearly growing as fast as you AI enthusiasts say it is.
And also the trends, maybe. I can argue on both sides, but I had it as important, John. I don't think we should send a leader to read 300 pages, but flag it as something for them to read when they have time.
I
You
think,
know,
yeah, but I think you can put it through the robots for the 300 pages stuff. And I do think, I actually think it does make a difference. When you see how rapidly adoption is taking place amongst consumers, if businesses aren't paying attention, they're blind. I mean, that's important. This is a game-changing effect. And I think people, it's like watching the grass grow, only it's really fast growing grass. So that's the other thing here is that, these are phenomenal. People forget just how fast this is happening, that these companies are now multi-billion-dollar revenue companies in a couple of years. That's just unbelievable. And then billions of users, whatever, pick the numbers you want, but it's a huge wave. And I think people forget about that in the day-to-day activities, and it's important to remember that.
yes. It's funny when we say that we don't want to give them a 340-page thing, whatever. I always am reminded of that old yarn in academia, which is students are the only customers that want less for their money. You know, what do you think here, Amanda?
Yeah, I think I'm important on this one. I'm not essential only because similar to what Luda thinks, there's a lot of information in here. Also, if you keep scrolling through, like some of it is about like trends in 2035. What did ChatGPT say? Can we like make predictions on our own without ChatGPT in this document? Some of that. So that was a little bit of a turnoff for me because I'd rather hear the human who's living and breathing it. Yeah, it's nice to ask ChatGPT, but can we take a moment to get away from it for this? So that I didn't like. But other than that, I think there is a lot of information. And I think it's an interesting read from a trend perspective when it goes way, way back with the data we have. As a data person, to your point, Dr. John, with all this data, I mean, it's a paradise for data lover just to read through and see what it says. So I'm important.
All right, Akash. I'm going to vote for essential here. I think this backdrop is just so usable, and even if just cherry pick what you want from the 340. And the other thing is that Mary Meeker's got such a reputation here of doing these encyclopedic, data and insight uh, platforms, if you will, almost. I think a lot of people are going to be using it. What do you think, Ankush? I'm trying to prejudice the witness here for you to say essential.
Essential for me, John, even if a leader can take out, let's say, 20, 30 pages of important information from this, I think the report has served its purpose. So, yeah.
All right, essential, essential it is. All right, next, please.
Okay, the next one is about play diffusion, which comes from Play AI.
Yeah, what do you think? Kind of interesting about how you can pull out, in this case, Neo and put in Morpheus. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, so and basically going in and updating or tweaking audio and things like this. But the fact that it's pulling out of GitHub, I think automatically there's not many that I really send to GitHub unless it's literally, code or things like this. So that's the only reason why I'm kind of like I don't know that I want to make this important at all for that reason as well. I don't really want to send somebody to GitHub personally, a leader. But I mean, again, it's an interesting trend of being able to update and edit audio and things like this. At least that's what I personally pulled out of some of this. So but again, this whole GitHub way of presenting, I'm optional on this.
Okay,
Everyday miracle.
Yeah.
yeah, you're optional there, Tim. Luda, how
Yep.
about you?
Yeah. Optional.
Yep. Everyday miracle to me. It's great. It's another algorithmic innovation. But yeah, optional.
Paul, what do you think? We lost Paul. Okay, Ankush, we're headed for optional. What do you think?
Uh, I think optional, John, but there's an option to play with this particular feature. Anybody can go to play.ai and sort of play around with it.
All right. Optional it is. Next, please.
Okay, the next one comes from Meta and talks about how Mark Zuckerberg wants to fully automate ad creation using AI.
Yeah, here we have the I forget the number, 98% of the revenue, 90 whatever, the massive core of this organization. He's just going to automate the living daylights out of it. Yeah, what do you think here, Luna?
Well, because it's Meta and because it's a strategic intent, I rated it as important. But it is really not there. And the tech, if you will, is not quite there to automate it fully. So it would be interesting what he actually does with it. All the elements are together, but it's really an intention and not yet even a product announcement. So, but it is strategic because, first of all, Meta, as you said, John, Meta's revenue is dependent on it. He has to do it, right? He can't not do it. And by doing that, he will put in a lot of new, or Meta will put in a lot of new advances to make it happen. So I think it is important from that perspective.
All right, important, not essential, but we have this massive company doing this. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, I could see one of these things that, well, let me take a step back. How we have the mindset that depending on the company and what they're kind of promoting here, do we make it important, essential reads, things like this, just the nature of the player. So with that being said, I could go in the important camp, but again, automate ad creation using AI. I don't know, and it's not that much information. So for me, it doesn't blow my socks off by any means. I personally, without Meta being involved, I was more in the optional camp for this one.
All righty, we're headed for important here, Tim.
Yeah, I would give it an important.
Mhm.
I was almost on essential, honestly,
Me
because
too. Yeah.
Meta is such an important company. And for a company of this size with this much position in the ad industry to say, we are going full bore to
Yeah.
total autonomous ad generation, that's a pretty big I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's a statement. It's not fact. It's a year plus off, but they can do it. They have plenty of resources to make this happen, and it's a game changer if they do it. Probably.
That's kind of where I was. It's like, this is, it's kind of like when I was a kid when, Russia and the US decided to, or the Soviet Union back then, decided to do, strategic arms reduction, even though they didn't get anywhere for a long time. It was a big deal that they announced it. I kind of, was thinking of it this way. Ankash, what's up? You'll be our Solomon here. What are we going to do with this baby?
I think essential for me, John, I have just highlighted a paragraph from the article which talks about how it can be a boon to small and mid-sized businesses.
Yeah.
So basically, Meta comes in, you tell Meta that, okay, you want to grow your business by this percent, and it will just do everything for you. So small and mid-sized businesses, they already
Yeah.
don't have the strength to do that. So if Meta can do that for them, nothing like that, right?
All right. Okay. We pushed this into essential. I didn't even coach the witness. There we go. We're going for essential on this one. Next, Ankash.
Okay, the next one comes from our favorite Ethan Mollick, and he talks about the recent history of AI in his 32 authors.
Yeah, I love that. It's what a fun way into this. He is a clever storyteller, I tell you. What do you think here, Tim?
I think this is important. I would say again, I'm finding myself coming back here and rating things much higher than I generally do. But it's a good article. It's a good history of the progress on image generation. And again, I think it's helpful. I could be argued even into essential again because you just don't realize it's happening so fast. When you see the comparison of the initial images, which is 3 years ago at most, 3 years ago, maybe less, right? And you see the total video generation he can do now, not just image generation, but video generation. It's just astonishing how fast it's moving. And we've talked many times about, look, we're humans, we're a visual species. This stuff, for better or for worse, this is not a value judgment, because there's lots of bad things that could happen here. But for better or for worse, this image generation and video generation is moving at light speed, and it's going to have a huge impact because we're humans. We see things.
Yeah, I tell you, I just saw a presentation yesterday at the YPO, Young Presidents Organization thing. Paul and I presented at, from Yavor Bozhinov from Harvard Business School, and he did, I thought, something brilliant. And Ethan's doing the same thing here, which is he was using video and sound and the improvements, just the way Ethan has done here with Otters, to explain exponential growth. And I thought that was brilliant, in terms of giving people a feel, visceral feel, because I think very few of us have any kind of feeling for exponentials and their compound interest and so forth. I think some small, I would guess 5-10% of the population actually have an intuition around it, or at most 20%.
Less, I would say, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just totally making these numbers up, so I'm exponentially throwing bullshit at it. But
I don't think anybody has exponentially built in. Usually, all of our senses are linear, so it's very, very difficult to get our arms around nonlinear. A lot of training, you can approach it, but I don't think anybody has it baked in. It's very hard.
Yeah, and anyway, it's a beautiful way to do it. Okay, so for important, Amanda, where are you? Important, essential, optional?
Yeah, for me, I'm optional, just because it's a good read. I mean, it's Ethan Mollick. So again, it's one of those things where you say a person in the industry that you just want to read what they think, period. But it's not like there's, to me, new breakthroughs or anything like this. And this is something you just kind of need to play around with. So that's kind of was my message, was get out there and play with the tools to see what they're doing. So I didn't see anything really that stood out to me. So I was optional.
Okay, we got an optional, we got an important, maybe essential. I think Ashish is making the case for essential. Although he didn't say so. What do you think, Akash?
I think important for me, John.
All right, Luda?
Yeah, I was an important, not essential. I think, it's a video generation. Yeah, Tim points out we are visual species for sure, and he makes the point brilliantly. But it's just video; it's not the whole field. So I was important.
All right, important it is. And we come to the last one: going beyond AI assistance.
Yes, the next one comes from AWS and talks about the use cases of Gen AI beyond AI assistants.
Yes, if I hear one more consultant say, you have to redesign the task, not just do individual activities, I'm going to probably vomit. But here we have an example of somebody who actually redesigned the task. What do you think here, Amanda?
Yeah, I think this is a good use case, and there's a lot of information in here that's not overpowering, in other words. So it's high level enough to be digestible for the leader within this healthcare example and prescriptions, things like this. So I did like this one, so I rated this one as important.
All right, we got an important. Someday we'll get an essential out of Amanda, but not today. Ankash, what do you think?
I think important for me, John, for the reason that Amanda mentioned. One, it's easily digestible. Second, I think these are use cases which are beyond the traditional conversational AI interfaces, right? So something different to read about.
All right, we got a couple importance here, Tim.
I was between important and essential. I love their use cases.
Yeah.
And I think, I've been saying for a long time, because everybody, Amazon is so far behind everybody. I said, be careful, the empire will strike back.
Yeah.
And to me, this is the moment where it's okay, they're striking back, because even if they only use it in their own business, remember, they're one of the largest businesses in the world, and they'll have an enormous impact if they keep this stuff up, and they're going to create these showcase examples, which are going to drive other businesses. So I think this is at least important. It's not super technical, but technical enough and detailed enough, and they make lots of references to more technical things. So it's some good design pattern, as we call it in the geeky industries that I think is good for people to get exposed to. So I say at least important and you know, maybe essential. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was an essential,
mhm,
John. I
yes.
really do think for the industry, this is an important message, essential message that the tools are ready to take more and do more versus conversational assistance, right? Or assistance in general. So, and they show it with examples and how it can be done with their tool, granted, but there are other tools that are competitive to their tools that you can do it with. So it's really a very powerful message with examples saying, hey guys, don't get stuck on just assistance. You can get way more value. And for me, that's an essential message, well articulated.
Yeah, I'm going to write a short post on, how engineering-based firms, I think, are going to win in this environment, and ones that are scientifically based and engineering based. And they went all the way to, publishing in Nature and things like that. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of return on investments, and very few companies would say to the staff, "Hey, we want you to drive this to ground so deeply that you should be able to publish this thing in a scientific magazine." I mean, that just does not happen in most businesses. And so that to me just shows a commitment to the science of improvement at a level that is different. And as we automate this stuff and codify it, I mean, I don't know. I think
Also, John, that another point to build on your point, AWS cases are always three pieces, right? What's the thing? What's the innovation? How you can do it, and the value you can obtain through it. And they go down to the metric of ROI. And they have mastered it, right? So here they present the cases and they point out, even though not with specifics, but they point out how you can get the value out of it. So I just think that they are pushing the boundary here. So that's why essential, I think.
Yeah, Kevin raises this issue about having homogeneous architecture. Yeah, maybe, Kevin. I mean, I think they have a modular architecture. I mean, if you think about how quickly they ingested Whole Foods, I think it points, I can't imagine that the Whole Foods architecture was the same inside. That famous article that, I'm sorry, the famous internal memo that Bezos did, where he basically said everybody's going to write to services-oriented architecture, or you're going to get fired. Have a nice day, kind of thing. And I think has really given them a modular platform. I hear what you're saying. I think, but I think it's that plus. Awesome. Great. So we're going to go essential on this one. Akash, if you give us a tote board when you get a second. We had a lovely learning community last night talking about open source based enterprise access to information through NetHopper and a price and capability based competitor to Glean and people like that. So it's worthwhile if you want to go see that. All right, we've got a lot going on here today. We got three essentials. Look at that. One important, only one, the two importance, and only one optional. Play diffusion. All right. Tim, I'm not worried about great inflation. I think we're talking about some really important things here. Any
I
announcements?
agree. Yep. Glad to be back. It was fun reads.
Yeah,
Really
they were
interesting
good.
stuff.
All right. Any announcements? No. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow and have a great AI day with